Welcome to the Unstoppable Product Pioneer Podcast, where we bring product and UX managers, designers, business executives, and strategists together to unlock the power of strategic alignment. I'm Tamara Stoltz, and I am on a mission to empower you to drive meaningful, measurable, and impactful outcomes by aligning business and product strategies. In each episode, I sit down with industry experts who share their experiences, failures, and wins, giving you the insights and tools you need to ensure your alignment drives real business results. It's time to own your expertise, step into your power, and become unstoppable. Okay, welcome back to another amazing episode of the Unstoppable Product Pioneer Podcast. How many people have told me, why did you choose such a long, crazy name? But each word was chosen very intentionally because we are here to make some serious impact for our product and business strategists, and we are unstoppable, and we are going to pioneer and continue to explore and tune into incredibly special, amazing, insightful guests who join us and take time from their very busy schedule to share their knowledge and expertise with us. Today is a very special day for me because the episode today is featuring a very special guest. Her name is Melissa Appel. For those of you who do not know Melissa, just put out an incredible book she co-authored with Bruce McCarthy. And it has been not only a game changer for me and for so many others, it's really life-changing, I have to say. Not only is there incredible insights in there to help for my professional life, but I have to say I really gained a lot on my own personal growth and becoming a better person. Anyways, no more talk for me. Let's bring in Melissa. Could not be more excited to have Melissa with us today because, like I said, for me personally, it's very humbling to have Melissa on my show because she has greatly influenced and impacted me in so many ways. So welcome, Melissa. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
This is so exciting. Okay, for those of you who do not know Melissa, Melissa is an author of the amazing book Aligned and a product management coach. And she coaches product management leaders and helps them to build and manage effective teams, improve stakeholder relationships, and has over 20 years of experience within the product management space. Melissa, do you want to tell us a little bit about the work you do, your background, how you got here?
I think you mostly covered it, but I've been working in product management for many years and including managing teams. And one of the reasons that I decided to write this book is because I felt like it was a book that people on my team needed in order to be able to advance in their careers. The further up I got in my product management career, I realized that stakeholder management sort of was the job. So it was most of what I was doing. There was team management, product strategy, but also stakeholder management. And I was coaching people on my team about various things, including how to say no to stakeholders and how to build better relationships. And I decided that I needed to write it down because I searched for a book to give them and there wasn't one. So
Wow. Wow. That's awesome. So your background did you start on as a member, an individual contributor on a product team?
yeah, if you want my product management origin story, because that's a lot of people say that they have come to product management from a non-traditional background. I don't know what a traditional background would even be, right? Everybody comes into it from somewhere. It's not like you're in the product management track in high school or anything. So I actually started off in mechanical engineering, and I was working on designing physical products, and I wanted to know more about why we were designing the things the way that we were. And so I went for a graduate degree and learned about product development processes and things like that. And I came into product management from, I guess, from the engineering side, although it wasn't software engineering. But my first role in product management was a product definition specialist, which is a fun title. But I brought my curiosity and my technical knowledge and my ability to do research and have empathy with customers. And that's how I ended up in product. And it's been a number of years now, and I've dabbled a bit in UX research too along the way. But I've always gravitated towards products with physical or process components because of my background.
Yeah.
But I've been coaching product management leaders, which is very interesting. I get to learn a lot about a lot of different industries, a lot of different companies. And in writing the book while I've been coaching is interesting because I found myself repeating parts of the book in my coaching practice. And I'm like, I think we're onto something. I think this stuff is useful.
Mhm. Absolutely. You said so many different keywords there that I wanna tune into. I would say the top 3, because there's so much there, but research, empathy, and then UX. Okay, those are all obviously big, broad topics, but research, empathy, and UX. So for those of you who are listening and watching, you're probably familiar with those terms, hopefully. But those, I would say those 3 words have a lot in common, and I'm curious to hear what is your experience when it comes to doing research or doing UX or having
Yeah.
empathy?
So there's several themes that run throughout the book. And one of them is empathy and curiosity. And I think a lot of people approach relationships with people as an us versus them. I need to get them to do my thing, right? I need to convince them. But it's not, at the end of the day, it's not really about your thing or their thing. It's about what is best for the customer, what is best for the company. And if you can work together with people on the same team to deliver value, that's when you're most successful. And how do you work with people on the same team? You get to know them. You understand where they're coming from. You understand what their motivations and their incentives are and how they think and how they make decisions. And that takes the same research that you would do with customers, you should be doing with your stakeholders at work. And we actually talk about that in the book as far as like a stakeholder discovery interview, which is most of the same questions as a customer discovery interview. So
Mhm,
it's a little bit of applying your skills in product management, design, research into your personal relationships at work. You can use those same skills to build relationships as you do to develop products.
mhm. That's fascinating. I'm curious, and if this is not obviously, if you think this is not gonna head in a nice direction, then but I'm so curious, how would you say that the like, a common personality trait of someone who finds themselves in a product management role is one that is more empathetic and active listening comes naturally to them? Or is that a skill that you find that all of us, we all have to work on active listening? But I'm just thinking for myself as a product designer, one of the things that was always very hard for me was to not jump in. I see a fire, I want to go put out the fire. To learn how to take a step back, see the bigger picture, understand that there's a lot here I don't know, right? And just be an active contributor and provide value for here are the concerns I see, but then knowing my place. Is that something, because I know that I for sure struggled with that. Is that something that you think is something that people tend to struggle with as a more common struggle? Or as a product manager, is that something that usually product managers have already mastered?
So I would say that good product managers exhibit curiosity and empathy and patience. And I think those are all critical skills in order to succeed and go up the ranks. I think I started off the same way too, which I'm like, oh, I see a problem. I want to fix it right away. But sometimes it's okay, let's sit with this for a little while. Let's see if this is still an emergency tomorrow.
Mm,
And that's something that I've learned over time. And I think that thinking about the bigger context and how this affects the broader initiatives that we're trying to do, and also being comfortable with uncertainty, being comfortable with not solving everything right away. A lot of people struggle with trying to define the problem. They want to solve everything right away. But if you solve the wrong problem, it's not worth having solved the problem because it wasn't really a problem. So I think that good product managers and designers too, we can talk about how those kind of are connected if you want. But I think good product people have curiosity and empathy and patience and are able to see how all the dots connect. But it's
yeah,
something you have to work at over time. I don't think people naturally start off that way.
there's so much there. Being comfortable with uncertainty, that's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge. We live in a generation where we want instant gratification, and we don't wanna sit
Mhm.
with something that's uncomfortable for so long.
Yeah. I know my kids' attention spans are much less than mine was at their age, and I try to show them old movies, and they're like, "This movie is really slow," and I'm like, "It doesn't feel slow, but I see how you could feel that way." So
Right,
it's hard, especially for people who are just starting out to they wanna make an impact right away. But
right.
there's actually an article I read that actually my brother-in-law pointed me to, which I've been recommending to everybody. It's about creating a WTF list when you start in a new company, which is
Mhm.
basically, I see so many problems. I'm gonna write them down and sit with them for a little while because there's often a reason why things are the way they are and you don't know all the people yet. The person you're talking to could be the one who made that decision,
Right.
right? And now you're telling them the decision was stupid
Mhm.
and you don't know who you're talking to yet. So, writing down all the things that you see and all the problems that you have, and then trying to figure out where do I fight my battles, right? Which ones am I going to look at first? How much do I need more information in order to figure out where this problem came from and why it's here and who the interested parties are? So, I think that's true with everything is that when you see a problem, you want to learn a little bit more about it before jumping right
That's huge. That's huge.
in.
That's something I have to start because that is amazing, and I'm sure for those of you who are watching or listening and are probably nodding your head because that's something I as people, we naturally, I think most of us always just, like, we wanna help, right? Like, you come in, you see something, it's, "Let's do something about that." And
Right.
so how long do you have to let those line items sit there before you actually execute on doing something about it?
I think that's just the general product management response of it depends. It's about investigating the list and figuring out what to do about each item.
Mhm. So
At
what
least a few weeks, right? If you're starting something
a few
new.
weeks?
At least, right? When you're starting something brand new, because you can't expect to understand the whole context right away if you're joining a new organization.
Okay, so that's a few
At
sprints.
least.
Mhm. So I'd love to explore, like, a practical, let's just take, I don't know, make up a situation. We have a product manager who just started their job. I don't know. Either they were working in the company, they were on the product team, they got promoted to be a product manager, and they're suddenly starting to realize that they're sandwiched in between their the business stakeholders and their customers. Both parties are screaming until they're blue in the face and pushing their agendas and their objectives. And at the end of the day, almost always the business strategists are going to have the final say because if it's not moving the needle for the company and it's not affecting the numbers and the bottom line, it's probably not going to go so far, right? But they also are using their empathy and their research and UX skills to tap into customer satisfaction, user satisfaction scores, and make sure that they can continue to make their customers happy. And they have those insights and knowledge from their customers to bring to the business strategists. But they're not, either the business strategists are not receptive, are not interested, don't understand the product jargon, and they're finding themselves a little overwhelmed because they don't know how to juggle these requests, demands, and just don't really know how to slowly, respectfully approach or handle a situation. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
So when you say business strategist, do you mean the product manager or stakeholders like sales and marketing?
Stakeholders like sales, marketing, CTO,
Okay.
CEO.
So the question is about how somebody in product can handle competing requests from customers and from their business stakeholders.
Yes. Or it could also be conflicting.
Yeah.
Okay.
It sometimes is, right?
Yeah.
The method that I recommend, which is how we go through it in the book, is to work with your business stakeholders to establish what the goals are. So, starting with what are our goals? What are our corporate goals? And how do I translate that into product goals? Because otherwise, you have no basis on which to evaluate any requests, right? And then it's just, do I think it's a good idea? I don't know. So, having those objectives laid out and aligned with your stakeholders is important so you can say, okay, this new request, does this match with our goals? Is this going to move the needle on the metrics that we care about? If no, maybe we shouldn't do it at least right now. If yes, then we compile all the things that we do think will make a difference. And we go through an analysis of how to prioritize them, right? So, does it meet our goals? That's one aspect. And then other aspects are, how many customers will this impact? There's the RICE model: reach, impact, confidence, and effort. You can use that. There's a whole bunch of different ways, but essentially, does it meet our business objectives? How much will it positively impact our customers? And then how feasible is it? Can we actually do it? Is it technically possible? And using those to prioritize and making sure that process is visible and transparent to your stakeholders gets everybody bought into the process. And then you have a way in which you've all agreed you're going to assess new requests, whether they come from customers or whether they come from customer success or sales or whoever, or the CEO. So having that kind of set up, and a lot of people think that process is like a bad word, especially at smaller startups. But I think of process as just a repeatable way to do something that I think will have a positive outcome, or that I know will have a positive outcome. So judging whether or not I should work on something based on whether or not it will help us move the needle on our goals seems like a pretty good way to assess.
Mhm. Yeah. That's there's a lot there because as I'm listening, I'm thinking back to the days when I was a product designer and I was asking my product manager questions like, how are the designs that I'm making now going to affect our business objective goals for the coming quarter?
Mhm.
And I didn't usually get answers.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an important part of it. And there are, as with any profession, right? There are people who are better at their job and people who are not as good at their job. And being able to consolidate all of the inputs that you have in order to create a sound product strategy is definitely a critical skill. And there are lots of different methods to do that. But if the product manager doesn't know what the goals are of the company, that's a red flag to me. That should be the basis of how the team makes decisions.
Mhm. So the product manager really has the ability to be the strategic powerhouse of the company.
So, for the most part, the product manager isn't dictating corporate strategy, right? They're taking that in. If it's the CPO, then they're on the executive team and they're helping to construct that. In a lot of situations, the product manager doesn't know what the corporate strategy is because there might not be one, or there might not be one that's super well articulated. And sometimes, as much as you ask, you don't get good answers. And in a lot of situations, you're just not in that position to force that or to come up with something. So in those situations, I found that it's useful to say, hey, here's what I think the company goals are. And here's the assumptions that I'm making. And so here are my product goals based on those assumptions. If those assumptions are wrong, please tell me, but this is the assumptions that I'm going off of. And here's my product goals and strategy based on that. And that's helpful because it gives your higher up something to go off of, something to react to, as opposed to just you keeping asking them to come up with something. And sometimes it's helpful to propose something or to state something as an assumption versus just getting stuck. Here's what I think you mean. Is this right?
Would you say that's more often than not, is that something that you find a lot of product managers are struggling with?
I think a lot of people get stuck for a lot of different reasons, and not knowing what the North Star is, not knowing the direction they're supposed to be going in, can get a bunch of people stuck. Some people might not realize that's what's getting them stuck, but if they're having trouble making decisions on should I do A or B, and they're not using any sort of decision criteria, then that's what's getting them stuck because they're like, I don't know how to make this decision. And sometimes it's just because there's no kind of direction coming from above, so they have nothing to go off of. And in those situations, I recommend just taking your best guess and stating your assumptions.
Take your best guess and state your assumptions. Yeah,
Mhm.
because that is something that I definitely have come across a lot with the people that I've worked with and speak to, which is that they everything in terms of the business strategy that's being communicated to the rest of the company, I would say more often than not, I hear that there isn't one that is clearly communicated to. There might be a general mission or vision, but not necessarily a more detailed, structured,
Yeah.
you know.
Different people have different skills. The people who come up with brilliant world-changing ideas aren't necessarily the same people who can clearly articulate a plan or
Mhm.
a vision. They have a vision, but they might not be able to clearly articulate it. I've seen a lot of top product people in a company take on that role a little bit of the CEO interpreter of saying, "Hey, we need some, clear articulation of the vision. The vision is amazing. I like what you've written, but we need something that's a little more specific and a little more detailed so that the teams know what they're supposed to be working on. And so they don't have to guess what you're thinking." And that top product person, whether it be the VP or the CPO or whatever it is, I've seen oftentimes takes that position of, hey, let's work together, CEO, and let's clearly articulate this vision so that it's easier for people to understand.
Right. So product managers have a lot of responsibility, but also a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, it depends what opportunities you take. There's
Mhm.
a section in the book where we talk about ownership.
Right.
And ownership is not like a land grab or an empire building. It's more like I'm getting stuck or I'm seeing a problem. I'm going to think outside my immediate scope and try to figure out how I can make things better, how I can positively impact the organization.
Well, there's a lot there. That's awesome. That's really awesome. Okay, so I want to do a quick recap on some of the things that we talked about that I feel could be very powerful to walk away with, and then we can wrap up. One of the things that I really very much try to do within each episode is give our listeners and watchers something concrete that they can walk away with and execute on and implement for themselves, for their teams, their company. I think the us versus them phrase that you mentioned at the beginning, this mindset of just creating, it's like opposition. I feel like definitely anti collaboration.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that I think can be very powerful for those who are tuning in because it's definitely something I know in my years as a designer. It's hard because when you're working on something, it's hard to not take, you know, criticism or pushback. It's hard to not take that personally. And once it becomes personal and once you become emotional about it, then it naturally evolves into the us versus them. And we forget that, wait, 1 second, this is not personal attack on me and my design skills. This is about driving success for my company. And if this design is not going to execute and deliver whatever it is that we're trying to accomplish and is not aligned with the business objective goals, then I should appreciate that feedback, take it and implement it so that I can execute on something that ultimately I want, which is a successful outcome. And so that's something that I think is very powerful to walk away with.
Yeah, you brought up something else, which is giving and receiving feedback as well, which I think is very important. And a lot of people are not good at either side, but thinking about how you critique a design, for example, that you're not saying this is bad, you're saying, here's our goal, and I don't feel like it achieves our goal, or I don't think it's going to move the needle on this metric. Having that context, both for the person creating the design and also for the person reviewing the design, of what are we actually going after? What is the problem we're trying to solve? Lets you have a more intelligent and useful discussion about the product.
Right. And what is the problem we're trying to solve? That was another point that I feel like is so powerful
Mhm.
also.
That's
Not
my
getting
favorite
distracted.
question.
Yeah.
I ask that question with my kids sometimes, and they're like, "Oh." product managers. One of my kids is complaining about something, and I'm like, what's the problem you're trying to solve? Do you want me to help you with a solution, or do you just want sympathy? Right? What should I be helping you with? And I think a lot of times stepping back and being like, okay, why are we here? How did we get here? What's the problem we're trying to solve is a useful mindset.
Yeah. And we're going to wrap up in just a minute, but can we just tap into that for 1 minute? Because that's something that for me personally resonates so much because I spent years asking that question because it's something that I also ask myself all the time. What's the goal here? What am I trying to accomplish? What happens when you ask that question, right? I'd say you're a product or UX designer and you go to the product manager and you say, but this is not, well, let's say, for example, you get a design task, right? And immediately you look at it and you know what you're trying to accomplish on the team for the sprint, for the quarter, whatever it is. And you say, but 1 second, what does this have anything to do with the problem that we're trying to solve or the goal for the sprints? Why are we doing this? Or is this in line with what if there's pushback or there's just this is what we're doing? So please go
Yeah.
do it.
I think folks who are more junior in their careers probably get that a lot because they're a little bit more removed from the strategic decisions and sometimes just go do it. But I think that people should have an answer. And there's a quote that which I'm forgetting the name of the person who said it, but it's essentially, I'm going to get people to build a boat, not by buying the materials and telling them the instructions, but by encouraging them or making them yearn for the vastness of the ocean. And it's so people are more motivated by seeing the future and seeing the vision and seeing the direction than they are by accomplishing a specific task they've been handed. So I think it's just generally a better practice to make those, what is the problem we're trying to solve? What does the customer need? What are the corporate goals? To make those transparent for everybody on the team, down to the person who just graduated from school, because that's what's motivating for people.
Hmm. Right. We want to know how our contributions and deliverables are providing for our company and making positive impacts for our
Right.
customers
People
and
people are motivated by, you know, what they can accomplish and not just the tasks that they complete.
wow. Wow. There's so much here. I'm taking it all in. Wow. Okay, we talked about so much and there's just even if you can the listeners, if you can just take one thing, write it down and just review it every single day and be consistent about it, whether it's the mindset of what are we doing this for? We're in this together. We're trying to create success for our team. This is not about me personally, but this is about the bigger picture and using the tools that you have to be comfortable with the work that you're doing and knowing that there are things that you don't know and being comfortable with uncertainty and make that list, right? If you're new to your organization and there are things that you're not sure about, not happy with, don't think are being done the right way, right? Write those things down. Don't jump in too quickly. Try to just take a step back and just focus on communication, right? Communication and collaboration and ultimately being a valuable contributor to your team. Amazing. So much here curiosity, empathy, research, all amazing things. Melissa, if anyone wants to get in touch with you, I'm sure that there are going to be so many people who listen to this episode and just want to reach out, say thank you, buy the book. Where should our listeners and watchers go?
So you can find out more information about the book on alignedthebook.com. You can find it on Amazon, and we can probably put up my LinkedIn link too if you want. You can reach out to me. I thank you so much for having me on here. Excited as always to talk about these topics.
No, thank you. Thank you so much. It was amazing and special. And for me personally, but I'm sure for all of you who are watching and listening, I have no doubt that you walked away with so many practical things. Don't get too lost. Choose one thing. That's something I always struggle with whenever I have a wealth of information and aha moments that I just want to implement everything because they're all so good. And then I find myself like not implementing anything because there's just too much. Choose one thing, choose two things to focus on. But guaranteed if you
So we have
implement.
a resource on alignedthebook.com, which is a stakeholder canvas, which we talk about in the book, which is just a format to write down what you know about your various stakeholders, to list out your stakeholders, write down what you know about them. And I find that to be a useful tool. Something practical that people can do right away is just to write down your list of stakeholders and start getting curious about what you don't know about them.
Yeah. And I think if you download the book, I'm pretty sure, don't you get a Miro template for that?
So on alignthebook.com, there is downloadable content. So there's the stakeholder canvas. We have a Miro and Google Sheets and
Yeah.
Excel.
Yeah. Yeah. No, those are amazing resources. I'll put the link in the description below. Definitely grab a copy. It's unbelievable. Every single penny well spent. And I'm not getting any affiliate marketing for this. This is just pure, genuine, real, authentic, my number one favorite. Like, it's an awesome book, awesome read, and just so much that you can take from it and implement. And it's awesome. Okay, amazing. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in and watching. Thank you again, Melissa, for your time and for your
Thank you.
insights and sharing your knowledge with us. It's really super valuable, and I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks.
Okay, thanks. Thanks for tuning in. I hope today's episode gave you a fresh perspective and some actionable steps towards aligning your product strategy with your business goals. Remember, you have the power to drive real change in your team and organization. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave a review. It helps others find the show and supports us in bringing you valuable content. And don't forget, alignment isn't just a buzzword, it's a journey that we're all on together. So until next time, keep pushing for impact and making a difference.